Hello everyone. In this video, I'll be explaining about the basics of share market. Before we begin, you have to understand that both share market and stock market means the same. So generally, what's a market? It is a place or an arrangement that facilitates buying and selling of goods and services, right? Now, if you go to a vegetable market, you can find people buying and selling vegetables. So what happens in a flower market? You see people buying and selling flowers. So what happens in a share market? You can find people buying and selling shares of public limited companies. Now, what is a public limited company? Let me explain to you this with an example. So, in South India, there are two popular hair oil brands. One is VVD Gold and the other is Parachute. Now, is it possible to buy and sell the shares of VVD Gold in the share market? The answer is no, because VVD Gold is not a public limited company. It is a private limited unlisted company. Now, what is a public limited company? Public limited company is a company which approaches the general public to raise money for its expansion and offers shares to the public in return. So, if you ask me, is it possible to buy the shares of Parachute? Parachute is a brand. It is not a company. It is a brand owned by a company named Marico. The same company Marico owns other popular brands like Revive, Saffola, Setwet, etc. Yes, it is possible to buy and sell the shares of Marico in the Indian share market because in the year 1996, Marico had approached the general public and raised money for its expansion by issuing shares. And these shares are now traded in the Indian share markets. So now I hope you are clear with what a public limited company is. Next, you have to understand that stock market has got two divisions. One is a primary market, another one is secondary market. Primary
Now, what
market is a
happens in the
place where securities such as shares are created, whereas secondary market is a place where these shares are traded. Now, let's get back to the previous example and assume that you have purchased the shares of company Marico directly from them. This happens in the primary market. And you've been holding these shares for quite some years. Now that you are suddenly in need of money, you're getting back to the company and asking them to take back their shares and give you money. Now, what do you think will be the response from the company? The company will say, sorry, we will not take back our shares. If you don't want the shares of the company, please sell it to somebody else who is in need of the share and take your money from him. Now, where will you go in search of that somebody who is in need of the shares of Marico? It will be always better if you have an arrangement or a facility that helps you to sell the shares of Marico to somebody else who's in need of it. That facility is called a secondary market. Bombay Stock Exchange and National Stock Exchange are the secondary markets in India. Earlier, there were 20 plus stock exchanges in India, which are now all closed. Last year, in the month of October 2019, IRCTC, Indian Railways Catering and Tourism Corporation Limited, came up for an IPO. IPO is initial public offer. It is a process through which a privately held company is transformed into a public limited company. Here, the shares of a company are sold to institutional investors and retail individual investors who are the general public. As per SEBI law, individual investors are those who apply for shares for not more than 2 lakh rupees. So, how much did IRCTC raise from the general public? 645 crores. But we all know that IRCTC is the only monopoly in the Indian railway industry. And they are also the monopoly in the catering services and railways. And moreover, if you look at the IRCTC's balance sheet, they're totally debt free. There's no debt in their balance sheet. So it's such a good company. So who would not want to buy the shares of IRCTC? Yes. So IRCTC wanted only 645 crores from the general public, but there was huge response and demand from the public. They were willing to give around 72,200 crores, which means they were willing to give more than 112 times the money what the company asked for. As per SEBI norms, the company is supposed to retain only the money that they have asked for. So in case of IRCTC, they can retain only 645 crores and the remaining they're supposed to give it back to the general public. This clearly means that not many investors would have been allotted shares that they had asked for. Only very few would have got the shares of IRCTC. Now, all this process happens in the primary market. Now, where will those guys who have not been allotted shares of IRCTC go? So they will go to the secondary market, that is Bombay Stock Exchange and National Stock Exchange. And what they will do, they will bargain with people who had already been allotted shares in the primary market. Suppose, let's assume IRCTC had issued shares for rupees 350. There will be a person in the secondary market who is willing to buy the same shares from you for 360, 370, or 380. So I hope now you're very clear what happens in the secondary market. The shares which are already been issued in the primary market by the company are now traded in the secondary market, that is in your Bombay Stock Exchange or National Stock Exchange. So the whole purpose of the secondary market is to create liquidity, which means those people who are in need of shares can go there and buy it, and those who are not, those who want to sell the shares can go there and sell it and take their money back. I hope by now you have some basic idea of what a share market is all about, what a public limited company is, and what a primary and secondary market. So that's all for this video. But there are so many more stock market concepts like Sensex, Nifty, bull market, bear market, demat account, intraday trading, derivatives, and so many more concepts. So if you want to know more about these concepts, please do subscribe to this channel. And in the upcoming videos, I will try my best to explain these concepts as simply as possible. Thank you.